Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 262. Each week we meet here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, and also on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. With us tonight we have Alistair Loxton. Alistair is based in Southeast Asia. He has been at the forefront of digital marketing since the late 90s and has launched, managed and consulted to hundreds of companies around the world. Alistair is currently co-founder and CEO of 3 companies. One, Ministry of Villas, Asia's #1 wholesaler of private accommodation and luxury villa holiday brand. 2, Powder Life, which is a comprehensive online travel guide for Japan's ski scene and magazine publisher in Niseko. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And 3, 01 Alchemy, a business-to-consumer and business-to-business digital marketing agency. Alistair has previously held the following positions: Head of Marketing at Roam Free, where I met him, and International Man of Mystery at Hexpress, which is a pharmacy company that is the hardest SEO there is, Tim Capper.
I cut my teeth on Viagra.
And an online marketing executive at APN News and Media. Okay, so that's your long introduction, Alistair. Next time you get less. I need the breath. Also, David Rozan is with us tonight. David is a leading internet marketer. He's based in the sunny south of the UK. He's been a copywriter for 30 odd years and an SEO copywriter for about 12. You can find David at writingforseo.org. You can find Alistair, where is it? At www.ministryofvillas.com. I'm sure if you use the contact form, Alistair will get to see it somehow. All right, Micah Fisher-Kirchner is Head of SEO for Zendesk.com in the United States. He's also a regular on the SEO public speaking circuit. He resides on the west coast of the USA. Okay, and Tim Capper. Tim is just back from the Google Top Contributor Summit at Mountain View. He is a Google Top Contributor in the Google My Business community, and he's also CEO of OnlineOwnership.com. All right, so we have 25 questions tonight, and let's get cracking. Let me try this one. This one from Neil Cheeseman. It's on Google My Business posts. Wonder if we know anybody that's competent in that area. On Google My Business posts, posting through Google My Business lets you publish your events, products and services directly to Google Search and Maps. By creating posts, you can place your timely content in front of customers when they find your business listing on Google. The question is, how does this differ to Google Plus brand page? We review shows. Can these be added as Google posts, or are the posts only about our services? The examples shown don't seem clear.
So yeah, it's an unfortunate name, Google Post, because people think it's a post from either, you know, on a social platform. Well, it's not. Essentially, it's via your Google My Business page, and you place your post is image, and you know, you can have text, and then you can link it to something. if it's, for example, a special, you can have a picture of the special, when, you know, what's the discount, and then you can actually have a little buy button. So there's a limited selection of CTA buttons, or you could create an event so that I've got an open house from the 1st of the month to the 5th of the month, and you can set that calendar date. Now, this shows in your knowledge panel, your business knowledge panel. It shows in your maps listing, and it will also show in the internal maps listing, where you've got a lot of businesses showing down, where you're searching for a query, and if you click on the business, it shows you the business little listing panel, and it also shows in there. So that's the only place, 3 places it shows. It's not where it shows within brand page, you know, within your like your actual Google Plus. So that's where it shows. I would certainly use it, because although it's not on a dedicated URL, it's almost quite weirdly hosted within a search query, with the addition of your CID number and the specific number for the post. Although its URL can't be indexed, I've shown that the actual content is understood and can be indexed. So certainly worth using. It's very eye-catching, especially if you're in yeah, well, in any, you know, it doesn't have to be a competitor market. You know, if your competitor's not doing it and you're doing it, and you're in the same search query, your business, you know, it's very eye-catching. So yeah, you know, use it. It's good. It's powerful. A lot of my clients are seeing a lot of traffic coming from them. One thing I will say is, if you're using it, make sure you use, you know, your own tracking on it, your own UTM links provided within it, because currently the insights that the Google My Business dashboard provides is way out. Just to give you an example, I had one particular post a couple of weeks back that had 88 visits coming through to it, where the actual insights via GMB only registered 2. So yeah, so certainly track it properly. But I think it looks great. It looks powerful. It's just another little thing to put into your marketing belt. Not every business is going to be able to use it. You know, an accountant's not going to use it every week. He could certainly use it at, you know, each quarter, or when it's tax return time, or, you know, to remind people. But someone that's got something going on every week, a restaurant could use it literally every day, and then delete the daily special at the end of the day. Although it lasts for 7 days, they could delete it at the end of the day, and then create tomorrow's the next morning with whatever their daily specials are. So there's loads of ways you can use it. I use it differently for a lot of different, you know, depending on the genre of the business. I create a story for one of my clients each week, which works very well. And, you know, their actual users wait for these stories each week to come out, depending on what theme we've picked for that week. You can create 10 in a row, and we create a story using the 10 posts. So yeah, you know, it's time to get creative. I think they work very, very well. Use them for certain. And Google understands them semantically. Go for it.
Thank you, Tim. Anybody with something to add to that? Okay, yeah. This one from Motivational Picture Quotes. Okay, we answer all questions here. What is the best way to make good SEO for a travel company? Now, these are novel suggestions. She wants to know, to have it at least on the first page of Google search. I've never heard that before.
So, look, you know, first off, you need to realize that in the travel market, you're competing. I don't know what, you know, travel market is. Are you trying to push specific properties? Are you trying to push specific areas? Or are you trying to push packages? Without us knowing, it's a bit difficult to kind of, but essentially you're going to be competing against other OTAs, other travel companies, and depending on how competitive it is, you know, it can be very difficult to get you onto the first page initially. You know, it will, you can do it, you can get there, but you're competing against big name brands. It's going to take you time. So my first off for you would be to properly segment. If you're dealing with, let's say, a specific country or area or region, properly segment and categorize your areas. And then within those areas, you know, the properties also with what you're doing, properly segment them, whether they be hotels, whether they be villas, whether they be resorts, or if you're just doing packages, you know, splits it up, you properly segment it. Then on those pages, you know, provide some really, you know, some you know, a good layout and good content to who you are and what you do, what area you offer in that particular area. And then it comes down to actually creating, you know, the place you serve, things to see, things to do. Essentially, you want to become a go-to guide for that location that you're serving. So, you know, so that not only are you attracting the longer tail queries before people just search London hotels, you know, you're going to attract the longer tail queries around it. So what to do on days out in London. I've got 4 days in London, you know, a 4-day planning guide. London, you know, what to do in London with kids. Really expand it out so that you're targeting the longer tail queries, which are easier. I'm not saying they're totally easy, but they are easier to rank for. You're providing some great information, and then when the person's on your side, you're actually saying, well, seeing as you're here, check out our little hotel that's perfect for kids in London, you know, or check out this perfect apartment we've got in London that is near to Buckingham Palace that you've just been reading an article on. Yeah. So, you know, create the content around it, make it the go-to place. And then at the same time, all of that content is properly interlinking to your actual London page or your London hotel page or London apartment page. And that over time will be weighting, you know, that you know, your top line category page over time. But I would say properly segment it, and then make yourself the go-to kind of place to find information on whatever city or market you're serving, and provide the information there, because that longer tail queries and more informational based queries is going to be a lot easier to rank for, generate in some cases more traffic than what you think is your money term. So start there, and then that over time will be building up your, you know, your actual authority just for Hotels London, for example.
Thank you, Tim. Anybody with anything to add to that one?
Jim, if I may, adding on to Tim's advice there, with our travel company, Ministry of Villas, we underwent a content marketing drive for a solid year where we really wanted to explore all of the services that our concierge team could provide to customers, knowing that the very big keywords are very competitive, and we were just faced with the reality of needing to find other areas that we could expand into. And we did this for a protracted period, and we were really surprised with the wins. In one of the regions we operate, we had a post that was targeted to finding a dentist in such and such a place, because one of the staff needed to visit the dentist, and we found there was very little advice online for such a thing. And it was surprising how much traffic came in from that page and how much of that traffic resulted in bookings and customers, because it showed how much our team was dedicated to helping customers, and that just flowed straight through. And the second point I'd like to add, if I may, is about structured data. So you could look up schema.org and look at ways of entering structured data into your site, particularly if you're offering a range of different tours or holidays or packages or hotels, etc. Because we've certainly found that adding more structured data to the markup of the page has given us advantage at a product level when people are doing searches for specific things in mind.
Thank you, Alistair. Okay. All right, the next one from Greg Barker. It's titled Redirecting the Home Page URL from HTTP to HTTPS. Greg said, redirecting the home page from HTTP to HTTPS happens as a 307 redirect on some well-built sites, google.com and moz.com, for example, but as a 301 redirect on others, searchenginejournal.com, for example. The best way to see it is to type in both the www and non-www versions and view the loading sequence in the Chrome Developer Tools Network tab. Is this okay? Does the Google search engine treat both a 301 or a 307 flip from HTTP to HTTPS as equivalent for ranking purposes? Are there any code examples or article links on how to always make the HTTP to HTTPS switch at a 301 redirect, like searchenginejournal.com does?
Yeah, as you can tell, just he found it in the comment, and yeah, basically that's more of a browser plugin from anything else. So yeah, I from my memory on this, usually it's still just a 301, and yeah. Well, okay, I should say that if you're seen as a 307 and it's not actually shown in any other non-browser plugin tools as a 301, then that's an issue. But yeah, kind of one of my things why I don't like to use the actual plugins, personal preference. So as long as the other tools are showing a 301 and not just like a 200 or just then you should be fine.
Thank you, Micah. All right, let's move on to the next.
May I ask a quick question for Micah, Jim?
Yeah, sure.
Is doing a 301 even necessary for doing the transition to HTTPS?
I would say yes. If you're going to be moving over from HTTP to HTTPS, just because, well, depending on the size of the site, there are a couple of themes for that. There's Google's not going to be perfect in terms of collecting all the pages, and so if there are more links and more authority of people pointing to the old HTTP version, Google may take it as, okay, we should show this page instead of the HTTPS. Then you have the whole kind of like what you have in Google Search Console, so you still need to have both of those profiles put in there and able to collect it. If you're, I don't think it's a huge factor quite yet, not factor, but a huge impact yet to users, but people not seeing the secured version or the HTTPS in Google search results is going to potentially reduce your click-through rate. So anything in which you can essentially funnel it all together and just basically tell Google, stop showing this old URL and more solidify that this is the new one and like in certain terms, the better that's going to be. Now, how much you need to do that right away, how much time you have for that, is something else. But given that Chrome is more and more ramping up on its ability to basically start to scream, "This site's not secure," you kind of need to make sure you throw it all in there so that the right one is always showing there.
Excellent. All right, let's move on to the next. This one from David Gaskin. He's trying to improve his rankings for some web pages. He said, "I recently tried to improve my rankings for some web pages I have that are focused on services I offer through my business. When I was planning to do this, I thought it would be a good idea to see what the top ranking pages were doing. So I searched in Google for the keyword I wanted to rank for, and with the understanding that longer, more in-depth content tends to rank better, I used the top ranking pages as inspiration for new sections of content that I could add to my page to rank better. I then added more content to one of my service pages. I had planned to do this to all three, but only got to the one. For comparison, here is a standard service page with no additions." He gives a URL, which I won't try and read out. It's on the Facebook Dumb SEO Questions group at peakwebsites.ca. He also gives a link to a service page he added more content to. And he said, "Last night I was looking at my traffic data through Google Webmaster Tools, and I was shocked to see that the page I added the content to seems to be ranking worse than the ones I didn't." The image, which can be seen on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. I have a few theories about why this may have happened. One, the content I added doesn't include enough latent semantic indexing keywords. Sorry, I missed that comment. Let me skip that back. Yeah, for contextually similar words. I'm getting myself in a muddle here. It isn't ranking it well for the target. I missed that line above there. I'm not going to try and get it again. Ranking it well with the target keyword. 2, there aren't enough or any links pointing to this page, although I know that there are internal links pointing to this page. Or 3, I'm incurring some kind of Google penalty. I'm completely confused about this, and I'm hoping one of you smart folks, he said, might know what's going on or have some insights about this. Thank you.
All right, let's see. Always great to see that you're looking at your competitors and trying to determine of who's ranking and why then they're ranking. That's a great way to, honestly, a great way in my opinion of trying to make the best call of how to optimize your pages. It gives you a rough idea of what you need to do. Let's go kind of point by point here. So first off, number 1, LSI is not an SEO thing. That's what became AdWords. So what you're looking at is trying to understand what's the right semantic analysis. Nobody really knows exactly what way they do that. The term frequency, the whole TF-IDF, like what you're looking for is basically to say, am I using the right relevance for that Google can understand the page, that it matches up to what the topic is. So the question is then to take it to the next level of what you're doing, which is not to say just, is my content as long as my competitors, but is my content as relevant using the right terms as my competitors? It may be the fact that your original article was much more on topic and you've added a lot more fluff that now it doesn't seem to be as on topic to, in this case, which one was when you were saying to simplify your business with website maintenance services. That's one of the ways to look at it. I don't see number 2 and I don't see number 3 as a way for why you would then suddenly drop if all you've done is change your content. It's idiosyncrasies to be aware of. So it's possible based on some of your content updates that more people are not seeing it as more relevant, and Google is somehow picking up some of this information through other ways to say, people may not be finding this to be as useful as it once was. So on its own, now that's one possibility. It may also be that without understanding your results in detail and looking through them, that Google was putting in classifiers of certain kinds of sites providing different types of information. So maybe they wanted 5 sites that had a lot of long form, 1 or 2 that was kind of shorter, and 3 others that are something else completely. And by switching your kind of categorization, you then were competing actually with some other sites above, and you were no longer in the same bucket, and that's why you lost your ranking. It gets rather complicated of like certain buckets. Think of it as like when you see a search result and there's 8 of them are informational sites, 1's commercial, and another's a brand name. By then changing your site to try to match everybody else, you might actually then be competing with a whole other different group of people instead and lose your rankings because of that. So that's something you want to kind of look at and say, if everybody was long form and you weren't, you know, you may be competing not necessarily with those 10, but maybe the others on the page 2 and 3, now that you've a much more longer form. But my first thought process would be that you're potentially added content that's less relevant, and so you're not being seen quite as relevant as the query in the first place. And so you want to make sure that that is matched up properly. And there are a couple of new tools out there that do that. ClearScope is a much smaller kind of starter one that might be more appropriate to you, which their whole point is to pull in the content for a certain keyword, find the semantic terms that are commonly used, that are relevant, and match it to your own content. And you can use that kind of tool to help make sure that what you've now added to the page is still not is more relevant than what you even had before.
Thank you, Michael. Anybody else? Luckily, it was a pretty good answer. All right. This one from Ashish Wasti. On the right way to add title in a sitemap. Ashish said, is there a right way to add a title in a sitemap? If no, then please tell me which way is correct.
There's no real title for an XML sitemap. That would be useful in any other way or form. And if it's just an HTML sitemap, then whatever is useful for your queries. I'm looking at the image there now, actually. So he's meaning more of like anchor text for his HTML sitemap. It's looking like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that's different. Okay. I mean, those are some really long title tags. If that's the case. So I think the issue is not, if you're having to worry about the right way to add a title in a sitemap, I think the larger concern is that your title tags on the pages themselves are too long, not the actual anchor text. So my preference is like always to bucket it by themes and categories if you can, and flatten it so that we can find a lot of the stuff, and really less so what you've placed in the title, because your title should be relevant to what the pages are, and they shouldn't really be very spammy. So I would rather you think and consider and focus on your actual title tag than what they're showing in your HTML sitemap. That's just kind of how I look at that.
Okay, anybody else?
Jim, I think it was a few years ago that we decided to move away from HTML sitemaps entirely and just let the XML sitemap take over for indexing purposes and for updating Google, and looking to focus on navigation for things like this, and it not being one entire list, but instead groups of well-written and descriptive anchor text links at the bottom of relevant pages to take people on a path and a journey. So I'd very much like to open it up to the board to say, migrate the sitemap to an XML sitemap for the entire site, and look at this sort of strategy of taking people to another page and the relevance of these links within the experience of the site.
Yeah. Yep, totally. All right, let's move on to the next. This one from Hien Lee. I'm not sure. I put a question on this. A question. I put a comment on this question on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group on Face, but she hasn't responded. But I asked her, "Are you sure she doesn't mean ventilator fan?" Because as an English speaker, I don't think I've ever got up in the morning and thought I'll have to go out and buy a ventilated fan. I thought they were all ventilated. But anyway, Hien Lee said, does anyone know how fast SEO keywords move to the top of Google? I am SEO keywording ventilated fan on Google, and I have not received any results yet. Thank you for the read.
So the question is, what are you doing? So you have a product, fan, and what are you doing? I mean, have you did you just create the product and think it's going to appear? How are you marketing it? Are you marketing it online? Are you marketing it offline? Are you, do you have technical specifications on it that you've got for people if they want to read it? Have you got a video in case someone wants to know how to install it? Have you got an article about compare, or have you got a thing compare all our fans, the pros and cons? Have you, what are you doing to market it? What are you doing to attract people? What is your sales point? Why would someone buy your fan? If someone landed on your page, why would someone buy it? And you've got to market it. It's, you can even market it offline. Take out ads, but obviously link, have a little link in the article or wherever that links back to yours saying, can you do deals with other people? Can you combine your your fan with the guy down the road that's selling I don't know, lounge furniture? Can you come to an arrangement where you can do a little bit of marketing together? So the point is, what are you doing for Google to believe that your fan needs to appear somewhere on the first page?
Thank you, Tim. And just for the future, Hien Lee, you'll get much better responses with more highly targeted questions, and provide as much detail as you can. We're here to help, but can't guess. All right, so let's go to the next. 7 down, 18 to go. Julian Oliveri asked the question titled, I want feedback and advice in the SEO. No, I think I'll pass on this one. With your agreement, guys? Julian, I'd refer you to the previous answer and please ask a more specific question. And I said James Oliveira gave a good answer. And also I think that there are, or there were some copyright issues on your site. All right, let me tweet that. I don't know why I did. And let's go to this one from Martin Maguire on targeting multiple countries. Martin said, hey guys, I have a new client, they're quite big, targeting multiple countries, etc. Anyway, I've noticed that they are insistent on having specific URLs for the targeted countries. This is causing a problem for two in particular, UK and Ireland, as it is creating duplicate content. The UK and Irish site are exactly the same in terms of content. The .com is automatically redirected to the below. The URLs look like www.domain.com/UK-en and www.domain.com/ie.en. They seem adamant on keeping them this way. I should point out that at present, there are no canonical tags on the site or hreflang tags. So that was going to be my recommendation anyway. From what I gather, the canonical tags won't stop the duplicated content because the URLs are permanently redirected to country-specific URLs every time. Is this true, or do you have better advice? Thanks.
I think there's something obvious here to point out, and that is, if it is indeed duplicate content, to what purpose does having the subdomains, what purpose is there having two subdomains for the site? But I think this is taken as writ, and it's more about the client's expectations and the client saying, look, we want it to do it this way and to show each market that we are dedicated to them, in which case I would certainly go along the lines of setting up the hreflang tags to inform Google of this, but take it one step further. You know, when client or the person you're working with gives you lemons, then make some lemonade and take it upon yourself and the project team to create unique content for each of the markets, and perhaps look at a different structure as well, so that they can be indexed by Google independently for each market, because really there should be a local SEO strategy that also comes into play here. And then when one is truly optimized for Ireland and speaks to an Irish base and has Irish contact numbers and everything else, it will perform better in that country. So, you know, I'd just force the hand of the decision maker and suggest to them, if we're going to go down this road, let's go down this road all the way and do it properly, or otherwise you're going to be stuck in the mud here.
So yeah, I mean, the first thing you want to sort out is your hreflang. You don't need canonicals. hreflang will be signaling to Google that this is the content that I want to surface for this country, etc. So hreflang 100%, don't worry about canonicals. I do want to point something out to you, that if these haven't been implemented now and that you're quite a well-known brand, it's going to take a long time before Google actually, it's not going to be a question of, you know, within a month Google decides, okay, right, we're only going to show these pages for a user coming via Ireland. The reason this being, and I suppose, you know, maybe for quite a few different sort of, maybe even like sort of Australia English, you know, US English. The reason being is, and we had a similar situation where it was a very, very well-known brand, been around for 15, 20 years, but then all of a sudden decided, hey, you know, we literally one or two changed words on the copy, and we want to serve this specific for Ireland. However, they've been serving the actual, you know, site content to Ireland perfectly well, because, you know, it's been seen perfectly well and understood for the last 10 years. And it literally took up to 6 months before Google actually kind of displaying the correct language page as specified by hreflang. Really, because based on user the user, it's got nothing to do with Google. You know, Google doesn't want you to, you know, they kind of understand the user's intent and what they're looking for when they search for a brand name, for example. If they're searching for a brand name, they're going to show them the top level that they have been for 10 years. They're not going to automatically change that just because you put in hreflang. So you need to understand that. But I would certainly implement your hreflang and then sort of take it from there. And you need to manage your client's expectation. You know, you need to explain these things to them. The other thing is that we found is that in some cases they never actually stopped. They never actually, for the actual main brand query, they never actually showed the Irish page over the actual, the UK was the top level domain. But yours might be slightly different. I don't know which country yours is your top level domain. That possibly US. I don't know. You haven't. I don't think he said. So, but in our case, the .com top level was the UK wide, the UK base site for global, and then they wanted it to appear in Ireland. So it's probably a slightly different scenario, but just to be aware that depending, I mean, if you're US, I think it would probably start showing, but just bear in mind that you know, Google will show it when they want to, based on the user and the brand and how they've shown it. So it may take a bit of time there.
Excellent, guys. Thank you very much. I'll tweet that and call that an answer. This one from JL Faverio on building city-specific keyword lists. JL Faverio said, when building city-specific keyword lists, would you do Los Angeles Plumbing Company or Plumbing Company Los Angeles, or both, or does it matter?
Okay, so you've got two different things here. Firstly, you're assuming that someone that lives in Los Angeles is going to type in Los Angeles. And I think, unfortunately, you're assuming incorrectly. For the older generation, my age and kind of thereabouts, people still, because we grew up pre the web, we've gone through the painful process of realizing that we needed to actually define our search query and add in Los Angeles now. And the current brand new home buyers and you know, things like that would need a plumber, you know, you're looking at a good 10 years gap there now, that understand that search is specific enough or understands me enough not to type in Los Angeles. So you need to work this. You need to work this both. And so this is the way I work with my local clients. I don't say Los Angeles Plumbing Company, because literally nobody ever searched that way. People searched, you know, if you look at it back, people searched I need a plumber, then they realize, shit, the search results so crap. That's when they add in Los Angeles. That is the natural way of speaking. If someone asks their Google Home, they will say plumber Los Angeles. They're not going to say Los Angeles plumber, right? So that is natural language, and that's what Google's moving towards. The secondly is that if also, for example, in your titles and things like that, you would say plumber in Los Angeles or plumber hyphen LA. So you're then again naturally saying you're a plumber in LA. Okay, so that's the way I would do that. Firstly, the second thing is obviously being local, you really need to nail down your. I'm assuming this guy has a GMB listing, and I'm assuming this guy doesn't actually have an office, but he's a serviced area business. You really need to nail down your service area within GMB. You need to integrate your GMB listing within your site, create that semantic connection, and you also need to really nail down your plumber structured data markup, including the same service area that you designate in your GMB page. Okay, so you need to tie in your GMB page, because your GMB page in types of service area business or local business can be between 30 to 40% of your traffic. You really need to tie in your GMB listing to your website and integrate them and match them. So yeah, I know we just started on the one. So it would be plumber Los Angeles, and really, integrate those very well there.
Thank you, Tim. I see in the chat there, Alistair likes your answer. Love that last answer, Tim. Okay, let's move on to the next. Nobody wants to add anything to that, do they? Okay. This one from Rami Muscovich.
Perfect answer.
All right. Rami Muscovich said that my homepage got blacklisted suddenly. Rami said, hi, it looks like the homepage of my client got blacklisted. Only the results of keywords associated with the homepage got slapped to page 8, or that the keyword is not associated anymore to the homepage, but to an inner page. The rest of the results that were associated with inner pages didn't get slapped. It happened yesterday. Is there any way to investigate the reason for this? It might be that the previous SEO company sabotaged the homepage. Is there any way to prove it? Thank you. I'd say the first thing you should do is go to the Google Search Console and just see if there are any transfer sites and stuff like that. You should check that out. But anyway, guys, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, it's just your homepage. So you could be, I mean, it's a bit difficult just, from kind of one day thing. But so my starting point would be Search Console. Do you have a manual penalty? No, I don't have a manual penalty. Right. Then could this possibly be an algorithmic penalty? In which case, algorithmic would be there's a few. So let's say the most logical one is links. Okay. So the same again in search, in Search Console, go and check out the links. See what links are pointing to the homepage and have a look at them. Are they seriously dodgy? I mean, just, are they seriously dodgy? Are they dodgy? Disavow disavow straight off. No ifs, no buts, gone. If that is not there, so you don't have any untoward links pointing to the homepage or the site, then you go, yeah, look, then it's just a question of digging. I would look at I would actually try and see if so. Why else would my homepage not be showing anymore? I would check what queries are showing now. Has someone, for example, scraped your homepage content, and for some reason that's displaying where yours was, and yours now has been demoted in the form of, I think that yours is the duplicate, whereas this new one is seen as the original. I would have a little look at that. There could be some weird possibility. What other possibilities? Potentially internal linking from your home page. Has the homepage changed in any way, shape, or form exponentially? Did you guys do a rework on it where you literally just changed the entire layout? Has do you know what I mean? You need to kind of look at things as where you were a week ago to you know, obviously the previous last index of the site. You need to look at that as to what it's doing today or what changed. You need to kind of break it down or work it back to see if there's any changes. Server file logs, I would start looking at those also. A date point where, right, this now it's here, and this is when it, and a week prior to this, everything was fine. And what has changed in between? And you literally need, if there's no manual penalty or there's no dodgy links, you literally need to look in between the two and decipher what changed in between there, and whether that be on-site, off-site, you know, your server files, something literally. I mean, if you went from you know, somewhere on the first page to page 8, something has seriously gone wrong, and unfortunately, you know, you really got to need to break it down and do some serious digging.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Would a DDO? I'm like thinking, how, you know, how would these guys have sabotaged it in such in such a short space of time if there weren't links? Would a DDoS drop a site? So okay, so server files. It's certainly that's certainly looking at that.
Jumping in, Tim, you know, the home page is the number one page that clients tend to modify and change. Doing a real forensic, was there a very, very heavy file or a new set of rotating banners or video added to the top that just dumped a whole lot of content above what Google was indexing before, or is it just slowing down the page load, the load time of the page? You know, I just keep coming back to it because it's one page and it's isolated from the rest of the site, that really drill into the forensics of what has happened on that page. And for me, the Occam's razor is, all right, client, what have you done on your homepage?
Hacked content, Tim, could cause them to drop.
A lot of things, you know, but at the end of the day, yeah, you need to literally look at, you need to just take your date points and work your way through what changed to figure out what was it. As to was it another SEO company or the previous SEO company, you know, unless they hired some well dodgy guy, you know, this doesn't happen that often anymore. You know, people have a reputation, people still want to run their businesses. If that ever came out, you know, this other company would be finished, literally finished overnight if it ever came out. or link back to them. Not many legitimate companies would ever go to those lengths. So, you know, do your research and investigation, and then, yeah, I really don't think another SEO company would, when we say company, fairly legitimate, would ever go to those lengths.
Thank you, Tim. Rami, if you're watching this, I'll put a link to this conversation in the question you asked on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. If you're watching this, I've lost my train of thought. Jesus, I must be getting old, Tim.
Too many drop bears on the head, mate, when you were younger.
Oh, I tell you what, that's disgraceful, isn't it? Oh well, it's setting in, David. Oh dear. No, I can't think of it. I've got to move on. All right. Saeed Rabari, on backlinks from the same IP, he said, I have a question about the link building of our website, www.portal.ir. That's what I was going to say. Hopefully Rami will be still watching this. If he asks a similar question and includes his URL, we can perhaps look at and rule out some things. Anyway, Saeed said it's a Persian website builder which offers an all-in-one solution to its customers. The problem is that we need the footer link in our customers' websites to create awareness about our brand, but this link is coming from the same IP server and everything. What should we do? Does Google consider this spamming? I'd really appreciate your help. I can jump in. I know the answer to this one. Yeah, Google does consider it spam. It's actually got a name, footer spam. And really, Saeed, it's not really helpful to you. In any value you think that link might have, it's really zero.
And Jim, is there a best practice for doing it where you still want to let visitors to your client sites know that you built the site and everything? Can you put a no follow tag on it or anything to minimize the spam effect, but still keep the PR effect happening?
Oh man.
Yeah. According to Google, it should be a no follow. But you know, the odd thing is they let the big names like TripAdvisor get away with that crap. So if you spend a couple of million a year with them, a couple of 100 million a year with them in revenue, they'll let you get away with that shit.
Well, Tim, they do get a lot of direct traffic.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next. And this one is from Anton Ivanov. How do you get Google to index your new blog post fast?
So, right. So, well, okay. So, essentially, firstly, you know, that should obviously your sitemap should update. When you hit publish, your sitemap should update, which means Google already knows about it. However, if you want to go that little bit extra, if this brand, company, or business has a Google Plus page, you'll be surprised how fast to there. You'll be surprised how fast that gets indexed, and you'll also be surprised that Google Posts will sometimes even outrank your actual thing. They you know, well, it depends on the authority you've built up, but you can, yeah, you'll be, so don't you know, you that link into a Google Plus post, that certainly gets found pretty quickly. And I'm not saying if you just create it today, it needs to actually have some kind of, you know, authority over it. But you can start building that up today. And the other one is chuck it in fetch and render in your search console. And then, you know, although Google, it's in your sitemap, although Google kind of knows it's there, you can do a fetch and render, which should get it done within a couple of hours. So, yeah, you know, you've got a few options there.
Yep.
There's 2 points here, Jim, in the answers that have come through besides Search Console. The first is pings, and the second is posting through Twitter and in Google Plus. I think Google Plus sounds like the shortcut, going straight into the source. And the other, was it Rasmus or someone answered, yeah, put it on Twitter, because that gets indexed regularly, very quickly. And sorry, Jeff, share it as a tweet, which you'll probably do anyway. And I just like to point out a policy that we have with the marketing strategy that we have in our company, and that is to roll all activities in together. So when a blog post is done, of course, it's tweeted, it's added to Facebook, it's added to Google+. And it's a matter of efficiency when you take an integrated marketing approach and you create a conveyor belt of actions, then it becomes habit and everyone in the team work together and it becomes very fluid. And you never have to worry about accelerating it ever again, because by doing all of these actions together in concert, you're not ever worried about whether it's going to get picked up. It really does just happen. But with regard to ping, I've got no answer to that one.
Thank you, Alistair. By the way, while speaking of the comments made, I must thank our forum heroes, the people that front up every day and answer the questions as comments on the questions in the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. People like Naveen Prakash, Peter Nicolo, George G, Ammon Johns, Rasmus Sorensen, I don't remember him, but I do remember Jeff Ferguson. Yeah, all good answers, and we really appreciate the effort that people do put in. All right, let us move on to the next. We're powering through these. We're up to number 13, 12 to go. Jenny Halaz asks the question, YouTube or Vimeo for videos? What are the SEO implications of each, or does it matter?
I'll speak first. We produced over 300 videos in the last 12 months. So it was a very, very active campaign, and we published on both platforms. And I unfortunately can't speak to an SEO benefit per se to either or both together. But my position is, when you've got awesome content and you've created it, and it's a case of an extra 15 minutes work to get it published on the other platform, do so, and you'll be reaching those extra customers.
Thank you, Alistair. All right. Anybody else? The next question is from Sirinivas Balaksoft. I want my website homepage and inner pages crawled every day. In other words, anyway, dear group members, my website was built with AngularJS. My website homepage and inner pages are crawled and indexed by Google every week. I want my website homepage and inner pages crawled every day. Can someone help me on this? AngularJS. Didn't I read something the other day about that? About AngularJS?
Jim, I'd like to start with going to the root of it, which is what Neil Chisman has to write below. Why would you want them recrawled? There may well be a very good reason for why you want your website homepage and inner pages crawled on a very frequent basis, because you're changing content frequently, or it's a news site, or you're following weather updates. If we use the snow report or a weather update as an example, then there are specific mechanisms you can use, such as, and they escape me, someone come in and save me from drowning here, but specific mechanisms that you can use in telling Google that this is news content, that it is date specific, that it has a timestamp and you want it, and it recognizes that it is fresh content, and then Google will treat it as such, and you'll get indexed more frequently for that content. In my experience, though, there's no benefit to increasing frequency for the same content at all. There's just no need to increase frequency of crawl. I've got some big sites that are twice a week, and even then I think, Google, you don't really need to come by so often. We're not really changing that much. But if it's a news site, there's a bunch of things you can do, and someone's going to jump in any minute now to specify what they are, but it is all about the date published and markup that says that it's a news-related post or it's time-sensitive. Otherwise, don't worry.
Thank you, Alistair. I'm going to call that an answer, and we'll move on to the next. Number 15, 10 to go. Neil Cheeseman said, what effect might two sitemaps have? I.e. one sitemap with web pages and the second sitemap for images also having the same web pages.
Well, your image sitemap would only be the image file. I understand that it's on a page. It should actually only be the actual image file URL. It shouldn't contain the page. You'll probably get an error anyway in your Search Console if it is displaying the same page's URL, I would suspect, but that's my kind of best guess.
I'm going to back Tim all the way with this one. I think there's a proper approach to XML sitemaps these days, and having a careful taxonomy of the types of pages and content that is indexed in that XML sitemap is the way to go. And absolutely, that would be the way to do it, and to break it into posts over here, products, pages, images, etc., etc. And I'd like to just speak to David Harry's comment, which is answering the question below, I suppose, but why Google image traffic is crap. And whilst that certainly may be the case, because people are just looking at those images and lifting them off the page to have a look at what you've got, we in our business find the secondary benefit of having our tens of thousands of images rank very highly to be highly effective, because then as a brand we become an authority for when people are doing image searches, and it is still traffic reaching the site one way or another, even if they're just looking at the image in the Google image results. and they see it comes from Ministry of Villas, I treat every little subliminal hint of brand exposure as being a plus. So I think it's proper to do the most accurate XML sitemap possible. I think it's proper to do a sitemap for images, and we still do. We rename all of our images when we put them up. We resize them. We scale them. We do every bit of optimization of the image itself. We rename the image. We add a title to the image. We add an alt text to the image, and we add a description to every image we do. And we are talking tens of thousands. And that result, it's just the devil's in the detail, and that little extra effort there, just following guidelines, not trying to get too tricky, I think has a terrific result in the long run.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, guys. Let's tweet that and on to the next. This one from Martin Maguire. He wants an example of schema markup, JSON LD, for an award. He said, hey guys, I'm looking to get a good example of schema markup for an award. It's for a transport company, train, boats, flights. They have a few awards, e.g. travel industry awards. I'm looking for the best way to structure them. Do I put them under service or organization, etc.? Brilliant answer in the comments from Jason Munn. He even went and found an example. All right, Martin, I'm going to direct you to Jason Munn's answer on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. And we must move on to the next. Let me just tweet that.
Martin, I'm just Googling that myself. That's really interesting.
All right, Neil Cheeseman wants to know the thresholds for the percentage of a web page to be CSS and JavaScript. He said, i.e. try and keep it below X. I see Michael Martin has said keeping CSS code in external files.
I'd also like to point out great tools like gtmetrics.com that will help you really get into the grotty details of what you can do to memify code and to consolidate CSS in external files, like Michael's saying. But I'm out. I can't give a percentage or try anything like that.
Yeah. The only thing is, I mean, with people with sites like, say, WordPress, which is more or less ubiquitous, and they've got 50 CSS files and 14 JavaScript files. So I take what you're saying, Alistair, that, consolidation of all those files into one file would be a good idea, and compression is another. With a site like WordPress, which is updating all the time, themes are updating, plugins are updating, and then their changes will be overwritten by the update.
Yeah, and I think you might get a negative return on your investment there, because it's you're really expending quite a bit of energy to get into that granular level, and I'm not sure exactly what the return would be, given 60% of the websites in the world are WordPress, and I'm just not sure how much that's going to be a heavy ranking factor.
Yeah.
But if you want to give your developer a challenge and he looks like he's bored and he's got 3 weeks before his next holiday, then give him that one.
You're right. I agree with you. GTmetrix is a great service. All right, let's tweet that and we'll move on. Okay, 18:7 to go. Chase Rayner asks why I shouldn't auto-translate my content. He said auto-translate my content around SEO to other languages on my site to hit a more diverse and larger audience.
Let me go first, if I may. From a business person's perspective, not so much SEO or technical. When we used to plug in Google Translate 10 years ago, it was god-awful. You just need to make that investment and get the language written by a native and make that serious investment. I think today, I think that the quality of the language AI tools out there is becoming exponentially better. And I think our answer today could be outdated within months, years at least, but even within months. It is just the learning curve, the advances in this area are so quick. I would say auto-translate from an ROI perspective, unless you're wanting to reach these markets and these populations very, very differently, in which case you've answered your own question from a commercial perspective, because you're going to want to write it differently for those markets. That's how I'm approaching it.
Thank you. Yes, I think that the Poles have a saying. It's called pissing in the soup, and the soup is bigger, but not necessarily better. Anyway, here's the next from Neil Cheeseman on image file names. He said that on a website where images have not been named describing the image, but the alt text does, what are thoughts on renaming the images? Or is it somewhat of a relatively worthless exercise? From Google, try to make your file name a good description of the subject matter of the image. For example, my new black kitten.jpg is a lot more informative than img00023.jpg. But what about after the event? Good question. I guess I'd say no.
We're going back to the same thing. This is a thing for your developer on a rainy day. You know, if you make it standard practice now that any new image gets added, you actually add a decent file name to it and move forward. Literally spend a week going back through. You're not going to see position jumps based on the image file name change. So it's a rainy day kind of thing. But certainly make it I would certainly look at it as a moving forward kind of thing. This is the way image files are always going to be named from moving forward. But I wouldn't go back and dedicate time to do it unless, you know, your developer's pissed you off and he's leaving the company and the last week of his life you're going to make as boring as hell.
I want to just come in and say a me 3 on that one, because it's about opportunity cost. And when you make it a process and you're doing it as you're building the site and as you're doing content, it's a 3-second investment after the fact, which is your question precisely. It's a 5-minute investment, and that is just, that means the world when you're talking about lots of images. It's just, when it's 3 seconds, you don't think, you do it. Moving forward, we do it this way. But going back, oh my God, you got to really dislike the guy.
Okay, let's move on to the next. This one from Vishal Gupta. The question is it true that Google does not crawl/index URLs that contain the pound sign. He's talking about the hash bang. Is it true? I think it is true.
Correct. Next question.
Well, actually, I don't think it's not that they don't crawl. It's just I don't think that they're able to crawl an index. All right, let's go
It's just serving as a bookmark within the content on that page. So it's really for users and for soft scrolling down to a spot. But no, Google's not treating it as unique content or a mark per se.
Yep. Thank you, Alistair. This one from Micah Fisher-Kirshner. Is Google still providing the Q equals part for non-Google Analytics software in order to identify what is or is not organic search traffic, as opposed to someone coming from google.com via a link? I wonder if that's related to SEMrush.
I don't have the answer because I haven't been looking for it.
Me either. I would be asking Mika that question. So this will be an infinite loop.
Okay.
I'd say open up your analytics, mate, and find
Okay. Niraj Kumar, how to tell Google that LID travel is not equivalent to travel lid? Niraj said, hello panelists, how are you doing? I want to tell Google that in lid travel, lid stands for lights in dark. And so lid travel is not the same as travel lid. Is there a way to do so? See the image below to see how Google populated Google suggests with travel lid keywords.
Yeah, so this goes back to, geez, the same thing like 2 weeks ago, whether they want, how did they want to rank for lid travel? The actual brand name. And the answer is going to be exactly the same. You know, this is not going to, you can't just tell Google, you need to build the understanding and awareness for this. However, you know, Google's still going to look at LID travel in that query for a hell of a long time. You know, it's unfortunate that your brand name was this, but you're going to have to build that brand name over time. There's no other way around it. I think if you can also get your LID travel listed, your LID listed in some way, shape or form on Wiki, additional content around that, I think then you can start giving Google some kind of starting point to understand that LID has 2 different variations to it. But this is going to take a serious amount of branding and a serious amount of awareness, to the point that when people type in lid travel, they literally skip in all the results to do with travel lids and finding your site and clicking through to your site before they start understanding that actually there could be 2 separate meanings here. I think also you're only going to start seeing this on a personalized search level, essentially based upon people's original search histories. So if someone has never ever searched for a travel lid, as in the thing you put on a freaking lid, and are actually looking for a light in dark travel, you know, it's going to take a serious amount of branding time. There's no way, you know, there's no one way or one single way. You've got an uphill thing there to go, and it's going to take time. And if this is a client that, you know, you're working for, Niraj, you really need to sit down and explain this to them, because this is not a 6 month, 1 year thing. This could be a long, you know, and I would possibly look at some other kind of branding within this.
Excellent, Tim. Right, let's tweet that and we'll move on to the next. Oh, I've already done it. Okay. This one from Nikki Hall on switching site language. Nikki went on to say, hello, everyone. We have a team building an upgraded website for Norway in English when they previously had a Norwegian version. Is it worth adding a few key Norwegian words to the new URLs constructed for the English site to catch existing search traffic?
I've got a rule of thumb that I use for advice, Nikki, to others in the situation.
Alistair, I think you muted yourself.
Blast. Nikki, I have a rule of thumb that I use for clients in giving advice like this, and that is to put the put the horse before the cart, where the brand is the horse and anything technical and SEO is the cart. People, regardless of country, will recognize the brand, and what a website is building a brand image over time, and you can optimize that website. You can rank for everything on any domain, and gone are the days where you're wanting to just jam keywords into a domain. I'm of the opinion of brand over technical in this situation here, but this is also just having a look at the periphery of your question and not really having a deeper understanding of the challenge that you've got ahead of you.
Thank you, Alistair. All right, let's move on to the next. I know Tim wants to go. Oh, did I tweet that already? I must be going nuts. Okay, Martin Maguire has a migration question. He said, hey guys, I have a client that has a new site going live. At present, they have only republished 40 or so of their old blogs in the new site. They have a lot more than that, 1,000 other URLs, but I'm not going to publish these on the new site until a later date. What should I do with all the old URLs? Redirect them directly to the blog homepage until they are ready, or something else? Let me jump
First thing I
into
want to
something.
say, Martin, is why do you seem to pick all the clients that only want to do half-assed jobs? I mean, this is the second like half-assed client that wants to do a half-assed thing with a half-assed way. If you're migrating a site, migrate the site. That rant over. What would you do with them? Well, you're going to republish them ultimately. So you don't want to redirect them, because the minute you redirect them and then republish, you know, that's just going to cause a mess. Because ultimately then when you do, then it's going to yeah.
Tim, can I tag in?
Yeah, mate.
I'm ready. All right. Convince the client to publish the new posts. You can't afford to throw away over 1,000 awesome pages that have got history. They just cannot afford to do it. It may not be pretty, and the pages might lose a lot of formatting. But you know what that's going to do? It's going to put the onus on the client and the whole project team, and you're part of that, to fix them up, to reformat them, to make them look pretty again. But I believe when I see a number like that, like over 1,000 pages, you throw that baby out with the bathwater, you just might not get it back again. And in the long game, that's a risk that I wouldn't want to take. I'd rather have some messy looking content on the site short term, and then put in place an accelerated, patch up, fix up, rejuvenation task team in to do whatever's needed to make them look presentable again. But don't take them offline. I think that's far riskier than having customers seeing potentially messy content.
Yep. All right, just wish Sashmire happy birthday. Okay, let's tweet that and go. This one from Neil Cheeseman, multi-redirects versus a single redirect. He said, I noticed a few websites redirect like this rather than the one redirect with 301. Well, what's he doing? Oh, okay. This, our scraper has not picked up the question from Facebook. Correct. Memory. It had 3 hops to get there. Now, to my mind, what you do in this case is you just have a rewrite condition test for HTTPS, and if it's HTTP, you convert the whole URL to HTTPS. But I noticed there was another answer on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group where there may be some reason to do it, but I can't remember what it was. You guys might know better than me.
The only reason I could think of somebody, the only reason I can think that somebody was doing it was because they hadn't managed their non-dub-dub-dub to dub-dub-dub redirect in the first place. And because they hadn't managed to figure out how to do that, they've had to create the piggy in the middle. But that's the only reason why I would say that they've done it that way.
I mean, trying to think of a theoretical reason why it would make sense is difficult for me when I'm boiling it down to several known knowns. Number one, to reduce the number of hops, as has been quoted here, is best practice. Sure, Federico writes that Googlebot can follow up to 5 redirects, and my understanding is that is absolutely correct. But in every case that I've looked into this, 1 is the ultimate. That's the first known that you want to minimize your redirects as much as possible. The second known is by doing what Jim just stated before about having a standardized redirect from HTTP to HTTPS, and then what Tim said about the dub-dub-dub automatically redirecting as well, I think almost makes the exercise redundant, because it seems to me like the client may be just wanting to do an HTTPS upgrade at the same time as standardizing what actual subdomain the site that they want Google to refer to. And I think that can be achieved through Search Console.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to... Oh, it's that time again. We've done it again. We've answered all of the questions asked on the SEO community.
I think Neil should never try and understand what a frickin' developer's done, because these dudes live in the dark, man. They just never try and understand a developer, mate. They're scary. They do crazy batshit things, which no rational person would. No, I'm just ragging on developers. Got to wind them up, man. You got to keep them on their toes, little bastards. Keep them in the dark. Slap them every now and again.
All right. Well, look, if you're still watching us now, thank you. Thank you for your interest. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again. But for now,